For Manchester United fans of a certain vintage, it may be beginning to feel like history is starting to repeat itself. Spanish stopper David de Gea was Manchester United's number one for 12 years, and despite some rough periods, for long stretches of that time, he was arguably the best goalkeeper in the world. Following the expiration of his contract and subsequent release in July 2023, Manchester United turned to André Onana to fill the void left by the man 7th on their all-time appearance list. It is safe to say that Onana has seriously struggled to live up to expectations, and it remains to be seen how much longer Amorim or Ineos will persist with him before entering the transfer market and trying again. For me, this difficulty in replacing goalkeeping greatness has echoes of Sir Alex Ferguson's struggles to find a successor for Peter Schmeichel. During 8 seasons at Old Trafford, the Great Dane won 5 Premier League titles, 3 FA Cups, a League Cup and a Champions League. Quite simply, one of the greatest goalies of all time, his skill set was complete and he could do everything you would want from a modern keeper. There is some controversy over his departure because when he left in 1999, about to turn 36, he was pretty much meant to be retiring, but went on to play for 4 more years, including doing the unforgivable and spending a season at United's great rivals Man City. Meanwhile, Ferguson had a torrid time searching for the next Schmeichel, and it took 6 years, several false starts and many wasted millions until they finally found a worthy replacement. Sir Alex's first failed attempt was the Australian Mark Bosnich. Bosnich is one of the only players Fergie signed twice, as he first brought him to United in 1989 as a 17-year-old. He made 3 appearances for the Red Devils before joining Aston Villa on a free in 92, after a brief return to Australia with Sydney United. In his 7 years at Villa, he established himself as one of the best keepers in the league. His best season was 95-96, when he helped Villa finish 4th and win the League Cup. A party animal and self-confessed cocaine addict, Bosnich made the back pages as much for his heroic penalty saves as he did his salacious antics. His most high-profile scandal came in 96, when he was fined £1,000 for making a Nazi salute towards Spurs fans at White Hart Lane. But that slap on the wrist did not serve to calm him down. Indeed, days after he signed for Manchester United on a free, the 27-year-old Bosnich was arrested for a scuffle with paparazzi whilst on his stag night, 5 hours before he was due to be wed. With all that being said, his first season on the pitch was nowhere near as exciting. In fact, it looked as if it would be over just as soon as it began, as he injured himself 21 minutes into his 3rd league game against Leeds. His replacement for the rest of the match was Raymond van der Houw. Signed in 1996 for $500k as a vastly experienced backup to Schmeichel, the 36-year-old van der Houw was never really seen by Ferguson as a viable first-choice option. Van der Houw made 4 Premier League appearances in Bosnich's absence before Ferguson, perhaps in something of a panic, entered the transfer market and signed 29-year-old Italian goalie Massimo Taibi for £4.5 million from Venezia. Upon his arrival, van der Houw was entrusted with Champions League duties and Taibi filled in for Bosnich in the Premier League. Taibi's debut against Liverpool was a roller coaster. He came for but failed to collect or punch a cross which found the free head of Sami Hyypiä. To the big man's credit, he put that poor mistake behind him and went on to have a stormer, pulling off a series of sensational saves that allowed United to claim a vital 3-2 win and saw him voted as man of the match. Disaster was just around the corner though, and 2 games later, Taibi inexplicably allowed Letizier's feeble long-range shot to squirm through his arms and legs in a 3-3 draw with Southampton. He was panned by the press and cruelly branded the blind Venetian by the Sun. Mistakes happen in football, and for goalkeepers it is especially important how you respond to them. Would Taibi use this experience to make him stronger, or would it ruin him? Well, the fact that Taibi is not a household name in England is probably a clue that the latter situation transpired. Starting the very next league game, Taibi welcomed the negative spotlight once again, after just 30 seconds, again showing poor judgment to come for a cross he was never going to get, allowing Gustavo Poyet to nod home a lightning fast opener. Taibi then had to fish the ball out of the back of the net a further 4 times as Chelsea humbled Manchester United 5-0, ending a lengthy unbeaten spell of 29 games and knocking them off the top spot. Massimo Taibi was never seen again for United. He was sold to Regina for £2.5 million in July 2000. With the Taibi experiment having ended in embarrassing failure, Ferguson had no choice but to reinstall a fit-again Bosnich to the starting lineup, and he more or less stayed there until he injured himself, and Van der Hau stepped up for the last 5 games of the season. And while there were some good moments, a penalty save to deny Juninho in a 1-0 win over Middlesbrough, a clean sheet against Palmeiras helping United become the first English team to win the Intercontinental Cup, and a fine performance against Real Madrid in the Champions League quarter-final, stepping up with a string of big saves to keep Madrid at bay, it was clear that in almost every area, Bosnich was a downgrade from Schmeichel. He was a solid shot stopper, and was certainly capable of making some big saves, and although he didn't have any huge howlers like Taibi, there were some goals he let in where you thought he maybe could have done a bit better. Not the quickest, his judgment when rushing out was questionable at times, and he could get himself into bother. Apprehensive and uncomfortable with the ball at his feet, the opposition sensed his nerves in such situations and targeted him. For me though, his biggest weakness was in dealing with corners and crosses into the box. He was calamitously poor at claiming the ball, often making a hatch of clearing it and causing chaos in the penalty area. For Alex Ferguson though, the main problem was clearly his approach to the game, as Fergie later revealed in his 2013 book. Mark Bosnich was a terrible professional. He got off to a really bad start. He turned up for training 3 hours late. He was overweight. One time we played down at Wimbledon and Bosnich was tucking into everything. Sandwiches, soup, steaks. He was going through the menu. I told him, for Christ's sakes Mark, we've got the weight off you. Why are you tucking into all that stuff? We arrived back in Manchester and Mark was on the mobile phone to a Chinese restaurant to order a takeaway. I thought, is there no end to you? I just couldn't make an impact on him. Bosnich has his own opinion of his time at United, saying this in 2013. The fact remains that I was the only player he signed twice at Manchester United. In my first season there, we won the English Premier League by a record 18 points. In total that season, Bosnich made 23 Premier League appearances, conceding 21 goals and keeping 11 clean sheets. Sir Alex actually used 2 other goalkeepers that season, academy graduates Nick Culkin and Paul Rachubka. Culkin holds the record for the shortest debut in Premier League history, replacing Van der Hau for literally the last kick of the game.
So here's Culkin's first kick in Premiership football, and there is the whistle as I expected.
It would be the only minute he ever played for United. Rachubka came on as a sub in the Club World Championship. He made 2 more appearances the following season before being sold to Charlton in 2002. Ferguson was loath to start another season with Bosnich as his number 1, and on May 31st, the £7.5 million signing of Frenchman Fabien Barthez from Monaco was announced.
It's simple. I'm here for win and for stay a long time.
Barthez was regarded as one of, if not the best goalie in the world at the time. In '93, he became the youngest goalkeeper to win the Champions League, a record later broken by Iker Casillas, and he shone at France '98, winning the World Cup with his country. He would help his team to triumph at Euro 2000 before heading to Manchester to start a new chapter of his career. Surely with such a high-profile name joining the club, the search for the next Schmeichel was over. Sir Alex seemed to think so, saying, "I am delighted that Fabien has joined us. Apart from his obvious goalkeeping skills, he has the personality to play on the biggest stage. It's an area in which Peter Schmeichel excelled, for he too had a great personality." And his personality shone through in that first season, lighting up the Premier League as Barthez quickly established himself as a fan favourite. Flamboyant and eccentric, the little goalie was a real crowd pleaser and was giving commentators plenty to talk about.
Barthez, a little conventional in his goalkeeping style, but regarded as the world number 1, inheriting that position from Peter Schmeichel.
He is quite a character, I have to say. And it comes through here to Hendry, and he's onside. Surely Lee Hendry, and Barthez fails out United.
Barthez, his fellow countryman, immediately committed. I told you there were some skillful players on the field.
That's out of order.
He's an absolute entertainer, this player, isn't he? He does nothing in an orthodox way.
Can Granville get to this, mind you? Barthez wants to play sweeper. Once again, does it pretty effectively. That wasn't a bad ball either, was it?
Quite get there, and Keane always had a chance. See what I mean about him? Unbelievable, Marty. Makes a great saving tackle here. Looking for a penalty, but no way. Beautifully timed tackle from the keeper.
Henry, out comes Barthez. Great tackle by Fabien Barthez.
Great start position from Fabien Barthez. Fantastic goalkeeping.
Sir Alex Ferguson has been quoted in the papers this morning saying, well, you take Barthez as he is, his lifestyle, his personality on the field, it's worth the potential risks.
Barthez almost up to the halfway line, trying to set up another attack.
It wasn't just his confidence and unpredictability with the ball at his feet that stood out. He was quick and aggressive and showed great command of his area, relieving the pressure on defenders by coming to claim many crosses into the box, usually displaying exceptionally secure handling. Quick off his line and brave, he never shied away from rushing out and smothering chances at an opposition striker's feet. His distribution was excellent, consistently accurate. His long kicks frequently got United into dangerous positions far up the field. After gathering the ball, he was always quick to start counter-attacks, looking to find a free teammate with a smart throw out. In possession of great reflexes, he pulled off some stunning and vital saves, helping United to win a third Premier League title in a row. A lot of people seem to forget, but Barthez was a huge success in his first season. He was the best goalie in the league and kept 15 clean sheets in 30 appearances, the best record in the top flight. Employing a high-risk style, there were of course a few near misses, but I would say that there was only one major howler. This bizarre incident in the FA Cup against West Ham.
Di Canio, onside here. Great chance for Paolo Di Canio. He's taken it. Barthez just seemed to stand there, almost daring him to shoot early. What was Barthez doing? See if we can see the Manchester United goalkeeper here.
Whether he's trying to put Di Canio off by saying, or gesturing that he thinks he's offside, I don't know. But
Barthez's brilliance meant that Bosnich did not get a sniff the whole season, and in January 2001 he joined Chelsea on a free transfer. I also have to give a shout out to Rangers legend Andy Gorham here. In March 2001, with both Van der Hauw and Barthez injured, Ferguson brought in the veteran keeper on a short-term loan from Motherwell. At 36 and having had a hugely successful career at Rangers, there was no suggestion Gorham was a Schmeichel replacement. Simply a safe pair of hands to help Sir Alex out of a sticky situation, and he played only 2 games. After a triumphant debut campaign, there was no question that Barthez would be the permanent fixture between the sticks for the 01-02 season. But with Van der Hauw reaching the end of his career, Ferguson signed 24-year-old Wigan keeper Roy Carroll for £2.5 million to be Barthez's understudy. However, all the praise and attention that Barthez had received after a stellar year seemed to have gone through his head. It was like he was determined to entertain or be in the spotlight, whatever the potential damage. This manifested itself in some exceptionally risky dribbling against Blackburn, which he miraculously was not punished for, but resulted in a flea in his ear from the gaffer. As Barthez himself revealed, Alex Ferguson told me recently, "It is not your dribbling that poses the problem, but in doing that you inflame the opposing fans and players, so you are putting us in danger." And to be fair, instances of Barthez trying to take on an opposing striker greatly diminished as the season went on. But it was not just the nervous skittishness which had descended upon Barthez which contributed to the uncertainty that plagued the United defence at the start of the 01-02 season. Dependable rock Jaap Stam had been sold to Lazio and replaced by 35-year-old World Cup winner Laurent Blanc. 22-year-old Wes Brown was installed as a first-team regular and found himself in terrible form, as did Blanc. Such was the volume of mistakes they would be forgiven for thinking that Barthez, Brown, Blanc and Silvestre had some kind of competition amongst themselves to see who could make the most comical and costly error. An air of vulnerability had descended over United's defence, and it was backed up by the numbers. That season they conceded 14 goals after 9 league games, compared to just 8 at the same point the previous season, and it was not only the eye test that showed that Barthez's form had taken a concerning nosedive, it was irrefutably backed up in black and white. The best shot stopper in the league in his debut campaign with a save rate of 82%, that had alarmingly dropped to just 50%. Barthez was conceding a goal every 45 minutes on average, and as bad as that was, it was about to get worse. The eccentric Frenchman had already made one costly error in the league, making a shambles of dealing with Rob Lee's tame long-distance shot on matchday 5, a game that ended 4-3 for Newcastle. But in September, the Howlers began in earnest and started to pile up at a staggering rate. It started with these 2 moments of madness against Deportivo La Coruña in the Champions League in October to virtually gift them a 3-2 win. A couple of weeks later, he dropped this clanger against Liverpool.
He's done it there and got the big rewards. Oh, Heskey wins it. Oh!
that's a poor decision from Fabien Barthez. Timo just back in it. And what does he do? The Frenchman gives Liverpool a thumb.
Then 2 league matches after that, he had perhaps his worst game in United shirt against fierce title rivals Arsenal.
Мяч не проходит. Ошибается Бартез, Анри, гол! Домой. И вот еще одна атака Арсенала, и вот он Анри, и вот он Бартез. И что?
That last blunder led to the goalie picking up the nickname Barthez Butterfingers from the fans. After a horrible run of form, many supporters were clamouring for Barthez to be dropped and for Roy Carroll to be given a chance, as well as questioning whether the unorthodox Frenchman had officially lost his mind. Fergie though kept the faith in his big money signing and was duly repaid by a significant uptick in form, not just from his keeper but his whole team, as they recovered from a horror start to get themselves back into the title race. They ultimately fell short though, finishing in third behind Liverpool and winners Arsenal, and although Barthez did pull off some sensational saves that did keep them in a lot of games, he did not escape further criticism. He was awkwardly punching or fumbling balls he would previously have caught. He was beaten at his near post far more often than many thought a keeper of his standards should be, and although he was stitched up many times by lackadaisical defenders with the centre backs all too often switching off and allowing a player to run in front of them, the fact that he was only 5'11" or 180 centimetres led to many instances where he conceded goals that you couldn't help thinking a taller goalie would probably have got a hand to. Perhaps the best example of that was Oliver Neuville's shot which sent Bayer Leverkusen through to the Champions League final on away goals.
Neville, Tor! Oliver Neville mit seinem 5. Champions League Tor. Gucken sich das an. Sie lassen ihn platt.
Perhaps because of just how good he could be on his day, Ferguson decided to stick with Barthez for the 02-03 season. He did bring in 31-year-old Spanish goalkeeper Ricardo from Valladolid for a reported $1.5 million as a third backup, behind Roy Carroll. Ricardo would make just 1 league and 4 Champions League appearances that season before heading back to Spain in 2003, and Carroll did have a chance to stake a claim to the #1 spot, starting the first 3 league games with Barthez unavailable, but conceding 3 goals in those games was not enough to convince Ferguson, who promptly reinstalled Barthez, and the Frenchman's season can best be described in 2 words: inconsistent and erratic. One game he would be pulling off world-class saves, like this absolutely stunning effort against Dietmar Hamann, surely one of the best stops the league has seen.
Hamann! Oh, what a save. Fantastic football. What a save. The player who had the shot and the man who kept it out.
The next, he would have heart-stopping lapses of concentration or do inexplicably risky things like this.
That was a hit and hope. Barthez has come a long way. Well, he had to make that.
Eventually, Ferguson got tired of balls that should be getting batted away, sailing over Barthez's bald napper and dropped him for the last 3 league matches of the campaign, in which Manchester United managed to reclaim their title from Arsenal with a 4-1 win over Charlton. Having aged at least 20 years over the previous 2 seasons, Ferguson felt his heart couldn't take any more of Barthez's antics and signed American keeper Tim Howard for $4 million from MLS outfit Metro Stars. And I can't really blame Sir Alex Ferguson. Although I love Barthez and he is my personal favourite ever goalkeeper, he really wasn't suitable for United. Whereas Schmeichel was solid, safe and secure, Barthez was erratic, unpredictable and risky. It seemed as if being a showman and entertainer came first for Barthez, and being the last line of defence came second. In a rare interview with The Guardian in 2003, Barthez defended his style. Maybe I'm not the average footballer. I don't play golf or anything like that, but people get the wrong idea. They don't understand how serious football is to me. This is my passion. I think and worry about my career. The expression Barthez the Clown has been used about me. It started after that Arsenal game. There were photographers outside my house. It shows people do not appreciate the difficulties in goalkeeping. People talk about my eccentricities, but am I really eccentric? I don't think so. When I dribble the ball out of the penalty area, it's not me showing off. I only do it when it's for the best of the team. Whatever you think, Tim Howard's arrival saw Barthez well and truly dropped, and he did not make another appearance for United before rejoining Marseille in January 2004. Tim Howard was a rising star of American football. He was named MLS Goalkeeper of the Year in 2001 and twice made the All-Star team and MLS Best 11. Ferguson had been tracking the 24-year-old American for over a year and said this upon his arrival: "We've watched him and everything we have seen has been impressive. He has real presence." And Howard made a perfect start to life at Old Trafford. He channeled his inner Barthez, rushing out and nailing a last-ditch tackle in the dying seconds of the Charity Shield against Arsenal. He then superbly saved 2 penalties in the shootout, winning the match, and was mobbed by his new teammates. From then, he went from strength to strength. Very quick off his line and with excellent judgment, he calmly and confidently snuffed out dangerous situations before they were allowed to develop. With a great wingspan and brilliant reflexes, he pulled off some world-class saves. A big, strong voice and commanding presence, he was a great organiser at the back, just as Schmeichel had been.
An excellent save from Tim Howard. People have talked
about this youngster coming into this Manchester United side, and he really has had an impact when really they've been struggling since Peter Schmeichel left the football club to find somebody that really does have a fantastic presence in goal. Well, they look as if they found one.
This is a fantastic save. I mean, how he gets over his head from the back, that is an incredible save. Danny Higginbotham wondered, well, why is that not in the net?
With the increasingly dependable and stable looking Howard as the new number one, the nervous tics and twitches that many fans had developed watching Fabien Barthez started to go away. But just when it seemed like the long and arduous search for Peter Schmeichel's long-term successor could finally be called off, Tim Howard found himself the latest goalie to be gobbled up, chewed into million pieces and spat out by the Old Trafford pressure cooker. It was the dying embers of a hard-fought and extremely close Champions League round of 16 tie against Jose Mourinho's Porto. As it stood, United were heading through to the quarters on away goals, and then this happened. Not only did Howard's error knock United out of the tournament, but it also knocked all the confidence he had built up out of him. Fergie did the right thing and took Howard out of the spotlight, dropping him for Roy Carroll. However, once again, Carroll was not able to grab the chance he had been presented with to make the goalkeeper's jersey his own, and not for the first time, failed to sufficiently impress Sir Alex Ferguson in the 6-game audition he was given in the Premier League, and Howard was reinstated for the final 5 matches. He also started the final of the FA Cup, which United won, beating Millwall 3-0. Despite the Porto error, the young American goalie had had a very encouraging first season at United. In 32 Premier League matches, he conceded 31 goals and kept 12 clean sheets, as he was named in the PFA Team of the Year. However, in his second year at United, the calm, composed and coordinated Howard of the first months of his time in England was replaced by a blundering, error-prone mess. United's goalkeeping coach Tony Cotton later spoke of the changes in the American in his autobiography. It was clear when Howard returned for pre-season training that he was a changed man, and not for the better. He suddenly started playing bigger when he was between the sticks, moving forward so that his only option to make a save was to block the ball, rather than staying that little bit deeper so that he had the option to make a catch or tip it away. Basically, he was so traumatized by the thought of making another mistake that he was playing it safe. It became clear to me that Tim now wanted to take all of the decision making out of his game, just in case he chose the wrong option again. That's not how world-class goalkeepers perform. Howard had a couple of high-profile blunders at the start of the season, and so he was benched for Roy Carroll.
Howard is there, Carr's lost it. Ferdinand battles on, Ferdinand! Les Ferdinand has put it in the net for Bolton, has scored his first goal for Bolton, and has buried Manchester United. That is sensational.
Creo que era un remate, gol de Chris. Sí, la dejó Howard y el central Chris aprovechó lo que se hace para marcar el primer gol del partido.
El disparo directo de Juninho consiguió parar Howard, no atrapó el balón.
And Carroll enjoyed his best ever run in the side, starting 22 consecutive league games. United only lost once in that time, and Carroll conceded just 11 goals, keeping 14 clean sheets in the process. One of those clean sheets was due to one of the most infamous moments in Premier League history, Pedro Mendez's ghost goal.
And look at Roy Carroll. Back forward by Pamara. Silvestre down. He's gone for it, Mendes. And Carroll is back. Oh my goodness me, it's in, surely! Surely Spurs have scored! And it's not given! Now was that over the line? Mendes did a Beckham!
One of the most extraordinary things you've ever seen?
First of all, the mistake by the goalkeeper is extraordinary. But then the ball is, it's 3 feet in. It's so obvious and a goal. We could even see that from watching the game.
Although Carroll was generally playing well enough, as categorised the post-Schmeichel goalkeeping at United, disaster was never far away. And in the last 16 of the Champions League against AC Milan, Carroll was made to pay.
Carroll на парол.
After that high-profile error, Ferguson gave Carroll the same treatment that he had to Howard after his Porto mistake and dropped him. Apparently, nothing that Fergie saw from Howard in his 7 league games back in the starting 11 convinced the gaffer that the American stopper was back to his best, and Roy Carroll was reinstated for the final 5 games of the season, including the FA Cup final loss to Arsenal. Sir Alex was keen to keep Carroll around and offered him a contract extension. Not happy at the idea of continuing to play second fiddle and having been given no assurances that he would be a regular starter, Carroll rejected the offer and was released by the club. Fergie wasn't about to rely on Howard as the main man for the upcoming season, and in June 2005 he signed Fulham's 35-year-old Dutch goalie Edwin van der Sar for a reported £2 million. He instantly made the spot between the sticks his own, and Tim Howard only made 6 appearances during the 05-06 season, mainly in the Cups. He was loaned to Everton in 2006, a move he eventually made permanent. He was an excellent servant at Goodison Park, making over 400 appearances for them. Howard has since revealed that what happened at United was a huge learning experience and invaluable for his career as a whole.
Have a season where things didn't go my way. It taught me some harsh lessons, but some invaluable lessons. It's sink or swim, and so I needed to step up to the plate, challenge myself, get better, and learn when things weren't going so well. The same people who I thought were great, they'd walk past me in the hallway and not say good morning, So I learned very quickly that it was a business, and it was a good lesson.
Van der Sar looked immediately at home at Old Trafford. He was so good that he quickly came out of Schmeichel's shadow and forged his own path as a Manchester United legend in his own right. He was so good that he went 14 consecutive Premier League games without conceding in the 08-09 season. He was so good, fans were wondering why Sir Alex had waited so long to bring him to the club. Ferguson had clearly learned from the painful 6-year headache he had replacing Schmeichel and made sure it would not happen again with Van der Sar. At the start of the 10-11 season, Fergie was made aware that Van der Sar would retire at the end of the campaign. Along with his backroom staff, he made it a priority to secure a replacement as soon as possible. Originally, he wanted Schalke keeper Manuel Neuer, but the future Bayern legend wanted to stay in Germany. Goalkeeping coach Eric Steele was convinced that Atletico Madrid's teenage keeper David de Gea was the right man to be United's number 1 for years to come. He showed Sir Alex a compilation of the youngster in action, and Ferguson even missed a Man United Cup game to go and watch him in person against Valencia. He was obviously sold by what he saw, and on 29th of June, David de Gea joined Manchester United in a record £19 million deal. Although de Gea endured somewhat of a shaky start where he came in for some criticism, he didn't let the negativity break him like it had Taibi, Barthez and Howard. He worked hard, improved, and soon became a monster between the sticks. His best period was probably between 2014 and 2018, when he was considered by many to be the best goalie in the world. His world-class saves won matches for Man United time and time again. Towards the back end of his time at the club though, many were questioning whether he was past his best, and fans, pundits and the press were finding fault with aspects of his game, like his distribution, handling, ability to deal with crosses and save penalties. The catalogue of goalkeeping calamities was piling up.
Mason Mount, this is Mason Mount. Oh, and it's gone right through David de Gea and into the back of the Manchester United net. Well, the first goal might have been a De Gea error. The second goal is an absolute howler.
Sends the corner in anyway, which was met and cleared off the line. Goal. It's a goal. It wasn't cleared, but that's so unlike him to make that kind of error in a game like this, and it puts Manchester United behind.
The main chatter throughout the 22-23 season was that Erik ten Hag needed a keeper who was better with the ball at his feet than De Gea. Although he won the Golden Glove after keeping 17 clean sheets, he made several bad mistakes that led directly to goals.
Dream for Brentford, a nightmare for De Gea.
Had to take the shot. What a mistake that is! Oh my word, what's David De Gea doing? And how on earth has the Benrahma shot squeezed in? West Ham lead in remarkable circumstances.
The large majority of fans felt that David De Gea was a shell of the player that he once was, and that if United were to have any hope of improving and returning to their former glories, they would have to get rid of him and procure an upgrade. And the decision makers at United clearly agreed. The saga surrounding the Spaniard's contract renewal had been rambling on for months, but the two parties could not reach an agreement. Talks broke down and he was released in July 2023. Inter Milan's Cameroonian keeper André Onana was bought for £47.2 million. Hindsight is a beautiful thing and allows for perfect clarity, but it is obvious now that replacing De Gea with Onana was a massive mistake. With his complete inability to deal with corners and crosses combined with his penchant for a howler, Onana is a mix between Bosnich and Taibi. Not long after United signed Onana, they also bought Turkish goalie Altay Bayindar from Fenerbahce for £4.3 million to be Onana's understudy. Although the 4 cup appearances Bayindar has made in 2 seasons is not a very large sample size, it already looks like he might be this era's version of Carroll, in that he will do in an emergency, but is unlikely to be good enough to take the number 1 spot from Onana. The current mess between the sticks at United is made all the worse by David de Gea's resurgence in the Serie A. Every weekend, United fans are casting longing glances at Fiorentina, where the 34-year-old de Gea is rolling back the years with some world-class displays. Now, Onana is far from the only problem at United. He probably is not even the biggest problem, but a solid and confident defence starts with a trustworthy goalkeeper, and the unreliable Onana only serves to spread anxiety and trepidation through the back line. United are currently being heavily linked with Leeds United's 24-year-old French keeper Ilan Meslier. If the Frenchman does end up coming to the club, will he be able to do what De Gea did and ensure that his name is forever spoken in the same breath as Schmeichel's and Van der Sar's, or will he be the next Barthez?